Yeah, if you look at the roster, how it's currently constructed, and probably what you're looking at coming up, you're probably only going to get one first-round draft pick this year. Joel Embiid does come back, but then you're talking about a roster, similar to this year, a bunch of fringe NBA players. I don't think they're going to land a superstar free agent this offseason. So I understand exactly what Brett Brown's saying, and I could feel his frustration both last night and even again today. But he wants to win, and he wants players around him that can win. He wants talent. He wants NBA talent. And, to put off these draft picks, for years and years and years, I think it's starting to get to him a little bit.
Yeah, there's no doubt that I wonder, do you think, like he said, we got to start winning and losing next year, but this year, winning and losing wasn't even in the top 10 things that they were interested in. Is the ownership group and Sam Hinkie on the same timeline? Do you think they care about wins and losses next year?
I think there's a little bit of a different – I think what was most glaring to me, Mike, was that after Josh Harris spoke, it became a little obvious that, okay, they're still patient with the process. These draft picks that they were hoping to get maybe 4 this year in the first round, looks like they're going to be moved to next year, and they're going to be in later in the rounds than they had anticipated. I think they were showing a little bit of patience there. When Brett came out last night, I think he was the one that was kind of like, all right, we need to move forward a little bit here. And him saying that wins and losses, wins weren't in his top 10 priority this year, I totally understand. He didn't have players on his roster to expect to win this year. It's not a talented at all NBA roster. It's full of fringe NBA players. So his goal this year was to grow players, was to keep a positive attitude, was to see who maybe be able to help a team, maybe this team, in the future when they are good. So I understand all of that. I just think that their timeline is, well, eventually it'll come to fruition, whereas he wants it to be a little bit quicker.
He did say last night, Bob, that he's not interested in this revolving door of gypsies that are keeping, the bench warm there in Philadelphia. Is that a direct, hey, guys, I'm not going to put up with these 10-day contracts anymore. You better start getting some guys in here. I mean, is that another sign that they might not be on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overplay it that there's, an absolute disconnect maybe between Hinkie and Brown or the ownership group and management and Brown. I'm not positive of that. I just think that what did come out was kind of like, okay, this being Brett Brown talking, I know I can develop players, and I've shown I can develop players. But give me some players that I can develop into winners. And I'm not saying that this group that he had aren't winning people or anything like that, but I mean winners in the NBA, talented players that he can develop into a winning NBA team, a consistently winning NBA team. And quite frankly, he's just not getting that. And if you look at the writing on the wall, they have 5 second-round picks in June. Our second-round pick's going to be what puts you over the top, what moves 18, 19 wins up to 30 and 35 and 40. No, that's not going to happen. And I just think that he feels it, and that's what's come out of his mouth the past couple of days.
Bob, I was watching that, and when Brett talks, I said I could listen to him talk about basketball for the full, an hour, so he could keep on going. I think he's very good at what he does. He talks and he's truthful, and when I listen to him, I kind of have a belief in what's going on here, because I find him to be a guy who's not going to fail in the end. But you kind of mentioned he's frustrated, he wants to win. Do you think he'll have the patience to stick this thing through?
Yeah, and I asked him that today, Mike. I said something. He said, when I negotiated my contract, I knew that we were going to take hits for a couple of years and blah, blah, blah. And then I brought up again, he doesn't like when it's brought up. I said, speaking of contracts, yours ends in 2 years. Do you see yourself here? Do you see all this coming to fruition during your timeline? And he, again, honest, I think with a tinge of honesty, he said he hasn't really thought that far in advance, and he's not looking at it that way. It's what's right in front of him right now, and what is right in front of him right now is the summer and progressing these players and all. But my thing is, when does the progression become the progression of winning instead of progressing individual players into semi-reliable NBA players? And I really think that's where where he is. He wants, and I'll reiterate this, he just wants to be surrounded by true NBA talent. And it hasn't happened. He's gotten a little bit of a taste of it, although he had it with Michael Carter-Williams, and that got snuffed out from under him. So you have a little bit of it with Nerlens Noel. Hopefully you'll have it with Joel Embiid. And then you got to hope that they hit the jackpot with whatever four picks they get in the first round.
You asked him about Michael, and, now that the season's over and he just got to see Carter-Williams the other day, do you still get a sense that that wasn't something that he loved?
Absolutely, I do. I'm telling you, and I believe it with my whole heart, and that when that happened, when that trade happened and they took the court the next time at Indiana, I watched Brett Brown for almost the whole game, and I really got the sense that he took a haymaker to the gut on this one, and it was kind of like, all right, what the hell am I doing here? He just built up a kid to Rookie of the Year status, the kid that looked to be, and fans can disagree, but, this time last year they were all on board, thinking that this was the point guard of the future and all that, and then, boom, it gets taken out from under him after he put in all the time, to develop this kid. So, I really think he took a shot, and I tried to squeeze it out of him both yesterday and today, how much that hurt him as far as the advancement of this team. But, he had a night to sleep on it, and just came back saying, well, when it happened, we just continue to move forward.
Bob Cooney from the Philadelphia Daily News here on 97.3 ESPN as the Sixers season comes to an end, 18-64. Second year in a row where obviously wins and losses were not where fans would like them to be. They said it's not even important to them now. But is the season overall, last year it was defined as a success by Josh Harris. Was their part two of the rebuild a success if they only end up with one draft choice, which was their own?
In that scenario, no, absolutely not. The success that you're going to have to gauge or to go with this season, I believe, is the progression of Nerlens Noel and what he did throughout the season, and that's undeniable. There's no question he improved by leaps and bounds. He still has a long way to go, and he's still very, very raw. But that was a success there. And some of the other players, the Jeremy Grant, he specifically, Brett Brown mentioned Jeremy Grant and Jakar Sampson today. I would have thrown in Robert Covington in that group as far as guys that really improved and maybe showed something as far as being NBA players. But, look, if you're talking about success of the season, the guys that I just mentioned are 15 minute a night guys on good NBA teams. So, measuring success is really hard because of what the measuring stick is, and that's just pretty much individual improvement.
He did talk about Noel. He said, when I got him, I was a little disappointed. It wasn't where I thought he would be, but you see that development and what he became. In your opinion, is Joel Embiid a better talent than Noel?
Oh, no question in my mind. No question. If you just look at the shooting form of this kid and the way his footwork and the way he moves as a low-post player. And look, I know that Nerlens Noel isn't your typical low-post player, and the things that he can do defensively, blocking shots, and his jumping ability are probably things that Joel Embiid will never be able to do. But just from a pure basketball standpoint, footwork, like I said, handwork, the form of his shooting, he looks to be kind of the real deal. And he has an NBA body, and sure, the body struggled a little bit this year. But, man, you have that framework of a middleman that Joel Embiid has. That is a true NBA body, from the wide shoulders to the thickness down, from the waist below, and the area that I'm talking about. He has that centerman's NBA butt that just is made for posting people up and turning and hitting little turnaround jumpers or just one strong dribble to the basket dunk. And I think starting out in their first years, I don't think it's even comparable how much ahead Joel Embiid is going to be of Nerlens Noel.
Yeah, Bob, how much, you don't get to see them practice a lot, but were there a lot of parallels to what they did with Noel last year and what they did with Joel Embiid this year? Or because Noel was coming off that ACL, was he not able to do as much as Embiid was this year?
No, I think it was similar, Mike. I really do. That foot, that navicular bone, that's a scary thing on a 270, 80-pound guy. So them keeping him off of that at the beginning of the season was priority. And so similar to Nerlens, there wasn't much on-court activity at all. And Brett Brown addressed that today. He said, that's tough for 20-year-olds to go through that. So, he was kind of directly talking about Embiid putting on some weight. It's not out of the ordinary that something like that would happen. He said, but once both of them got onto the court, were able to do activities, you just saw their excitement level go up and their want to work out and to improve their basketball skills. It just rose when they were able to be on the court a little bit more and do a little bit more. So I think, and in that way it was similar, Mike.
Bob Cooney from the Daily News here on 97.3. He had his Cole Hamels moment there. He said, I'm happy this season is over, but I'm excited for the summer. Obviously, the losing has worn on him and everybody here, but he is excited for the next phase of this. And you asked him, what is your, top, thing that you need this offseason? Obviously, they need talent. He mentioned that. We need to get talent. We need to start finding talent. But what is something that fans can see that they will go after this offseason? If anything, do you think there'll be a player in any sort of free agency, or is it just going to be via the draft again?
Yeah, well, I mean, what is there in free agency? The big name, I think, is Kawhi Leonard from San Antonio, who's a restricted free agent. So, Brett Brown refers to San Antonio as Disneyland. Do you leave Disneyland to come to a place that's won a total of, 37 games over the last 2 years? I don't know that any amount of money could get Kawhi Leonard here. Jimmy Butler in Chicago, that's a pretty sweet deal that he has going on there, and many teams will be going after him. Philadelphia doesn't seem to be a prime place to pick anybody up, so I don't think they're going to be big players at all in free agency. I think what they need is, with Joel Embiid, with Nerlens Noel, you need shooters. You need to spread the floor. You need guys that can consistently hit baskets, and I think you have one in Robert Covington. I think he's an NBA outside shooter. But you need guys that can really step in and spread the floor, and I think that'll be their target. Obviously, the point guard position is paramount. Whether you address that with the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever pick you have, I think ideally if they got the third or fourth pick and they could get Moutier or D'Angelo Russell, and you have a healthy Embiid and a Nerlens Noel, okay, I can live with that and move forward. You've addressed the need, and you've also gotten the best player available. So those are kind of the areas that I think you have to hit.
Okay, everybody. Bob Cooney from the Philadelphia Daily News, where the Sixers will go into the third offseason now with Sam Hinkie as the GM. And, of course, everybody will keep their eyes on what happens. The lottery coming up on the 19th. And then, of course, the NBA draft. Will they be a big draft night trade? Will they be able to acquire some more picks? That story unfolds, and Bob will be on that. We'll talk to you as the offseason unfolds here, Bobby.
Mike, I appreciate you having me. Take care, buddy.